Okay. Good afternoon and good evening to everyone here in Mesiano and online. I hope that online you can hear me. If not, please let me know, just writing in the chat. Welcome all. I'm Marta Crivellaro. I'm a postdoc here at the DCAM department, and I'm part of the organizing committee of ESIC seminar. This is the final appointment of this year cycle of seminars, and today, as you know, it's a cycle of seminars about environmental sustainability and international cooperation that is proposed by the UNESCO chair in Engineering for Human and Sustainable Development. And today we are gonna go explore the theme of climate change and water governance with experiences that are coming from Latin America, looking especially how Bolivia and Brazil are moving toward participatory or adaptive water management model and systems in different contexts. So just a couple of practical information before starting to diving deep into the topic. First of all, as you might know, we are going to record the seminar. So if you prefer not to appear in the recording, you can switch off your camera online. And secondly, for all the students that are enrolled within this department, if you are interested in getting the credit, the Type F credit, please remember you have to sign the in-presence registration of your attendance. And as you know, for you, we are going to ask you a final exam that consists of a short presentation, 5 minutes presentation. And this will be arranged between the 8th and the 10th of June. And I already contacted the majority of you. If I missed someone, please just write to me and I'll add you to the list of students that are interested in the exam. So it's over with the practical information and we can start. So first of all, I would like to thank you, the speakers that are here today with us online and in presence for their willingness to share their experience, in particular Professor Leonardo Villafuerte Filopolsport from the University Católica Boliviana that is joining us remotely. And thank you. Is going to start talking about how to empower youth for SDG action in contaminated basins in Bolivia. And then Marta Marcherato, that we will welcome back at Trento, she's going to present her master fieldwork research thesis she conducted in Bolivia, also with the supervision of the previous speakers. And finally, we're going to move to another state. We're going to move to Brazil with Professor Katia Sakiyama Ventura, that she's going to present how water governance and public policies are set and which are their direction in Brazilian cities. So that's all from my side. I want to steal time to the speakers, and I welcome Leonardo. Please, you can take the stage, share the screen, and start with your speech. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. Good afternoon, good evening there. I believe this is just the morning in Bolivia, but I think it's really nice to be with you. I would like also begin sincerely thanking Professor Massimo Sortera for this invitation to share this kind of thoughts in this webinar series and be with you. And also for all the people that is making possible this ESIC webinar series. I am Leonardo Villafuerte, as our presenter show. I am from the Institute of Democracy or for Democracy in our Catholic University of Bolivia. And today I will share a collaborative project with the indigenous community of Civile, the Free University of Brussels as well, and my UCB, focused on citizen science as a catalyst for environmental justice and Sustainable Development Goals implementation. This project used participatory water monitoring, legal literacy, and youth engagement to try to confront systemic inequalities that we have here in Bolivia's Catarí River Basin, where pollution and inaction have disproportionately harmed indigenous communities. In this sense, I would like to say that this presentation is also grounded in a recently published paper. As you can see it here, it was published in Springer Nature Sustainability Nexus Forum. And I would like to invite you to read it and to share it and also to cite it. It's my pleasure to be with these really interesting co-authors, Professors Agramont, Baltodano, Gary Sifard, Lizarazo Rodriguez, Warner, and Greenspan. In any case, I believe this project, in this project, we actually adopted a citizen science as a methodology. And what is citizen science? It is a participatory and situated process through which communities generate scientific knowledge beyond its technical definition. We connected this practice to a form of knowledge and communication deeply rooted in this Aymara culture, Aruskiptasiña, which means dialoguing among equals. The phrase, as you can see it here, is so long, Aruskiptasipsañanaka Sakipunirakispahua, or we must continue to dialogue even if we are already doing so. It expresses an ethic of permanent dialogue. In this sense, citizen science was not just about data collection, but it became a space for intercultural dialogue between types of knowledge, generations, territories, and rights, as I'm going to show in the following of my presentation. Think that measuring water became more than just a technical act in this specific context. In terms of Pachamama, that is Mother Earth, as you already know, living reality that includes all beings, it became a way of speaking with the river, with the community, with the constitution of Bolivia, and also with the future. Water for indigenous peoples actually is not just a resource. It is also life. It is also memory. It is also identity, their way of living. Pollution then not only damages health and livelihoods, it also breaks spiritual and cultural bonds. To understand the scale of this experience, I believe this is important to situate it as in the community of Chojasivi. We are here in South America, in the Andean region. This is the far west part of Bolivia, where Lake Titicaca is one single body of water. This is one of the continent's most significant freshwater reserves, and it is located in Peruvian and Bolivian countries. This is a binational lake, and this is the highest that is navigable. Chojasivi, it's a community of approximately 1,000 inhabitants. It is so small. It is also located in the south of the lake, Titicaca, as you can see, and it is the outlet of the Catarí River Basin. The basin suffers severe pollution from mining, from urban, from industrial, from agricultural sources. This Aymara community of Chojasivi lies at the lower end of the basin, downstream from these multiple sources of contamination. As you can see here, living downstream is not a neutral condition. Communities like Chojasivi, who neither benefit from or nor control these activities, face deteriorating water quality, health impacts, and ecosystem collapse. Indigenous communities experience systematic and interlocking injustices, historical marginalization, land dispossession, and lack of access to services, all compounded by extractive environmental models. The global reporting on SDG, Indicator 632, reveals that lower-income countries like Bolivia, my country, lack basic infrastructure and institutional capacity to monitor and act on water quality. This is a global pattern, actually, of environmental asymmetries. and it must be made visible if we want to build equitable water governance. International frameworks, for example, UNDRIP, this is the United Nations Declarations on the Right of Indigenous Peoples, or the Convention 169 from the International Labour Organization, and the Escazú Agreement, they all recognize this kind of rights. Bolivia's constitution also recognizes these kind of rights. Sadly, this is just on paper. Rights without enforcement are actually hollow, and communities like Chojasivi often lack the technical and legal tools to defend themselves. In this context, I believe that citizen science becomes one of the vehicles of sovereignty, environmental defense, and legal visibility. Citizen science empowers communities to generate data, interpret their own reality, and demand change. It transforms, I believe, environmental monitoring into an act of political participation. Our project trained 19 high school students in Chojasivi to monitor water monthly in 2 sites. They used multi-parameter sensors that we bought in this project, also test kits, mobile apps, and they measure turbidity, phosphates, nitrates, and conductivity, among others. This hands-on work co-produced evidence of alarming pollution levels, data that could not be ignored, I think. It also showed the students that citizen science can be theirs. Science, something that is close, not something that is distant or foreign, not something that came only from universities, but probably a tool that is actually rooted in territory in this kind of projects. And we also linked it to their own rights. We complemented this work, as I am telling you, training them in environmental law, so participants actually could connect their data with national and international protections. Before the project, many participants, the students, sensed pollution, but actually they couldn't name it. They described the water smell, its murky color, and the actual disappearance of fish. Now, in this river, there are they don't have fish. Through citizen science, they could finally connect observation with evidence. They say, now we know how polluted it really is. Said, for example, we ourselves can explain the process. These kind of reflections reveal a growing awareness, not just of water quality, but of why pollution actually exists, who's responsible, and what can be done. Probably this is a foundational shift. It bridges traditional knowledge and technical literacy, and it also helps reclaim a narrative that is too often dominated by outsiders, the government, and probably scholars. Then, as the students engage with these legal frameworks, they began to connect the dots. Contamination is not just bad luck, as they thought earlier, but it is a violation of their rights. They explored constitutional articles, the Escazú Agreement, and the idea that nature itself has a legal standing here in Bolivia. Many express frustration. For example, companies polluted our rivers and no one is punished. They also say, and saw a possibility, we have the right to act, to unite with others, and to protect the environment. So this illustrates actually SDG 16 in practice. I believe that building peaceful, just, and inclusive institutions from below. No, not through courtrooms, actually, but through communities and the science and legal empowerment that they received. In this sense, the effects ripple beyond the classroom. Students share findings with families, appear on community radio, and even they organize a waste cleanup campaign. Teachers actually committed to continuing the monitoring. The equipment, as you can see here, was publicly donated to the school, creating collective ownership. This process showed that science and rights actually can work together when they are locally rooted and can build community cohesion, visibility, and also action. It also sparked a dialogue across generations, as young people explained. their work to the parents and grandparents, reinforcing indigenous environmental values and collective responsibility. I believe that this is the resources nexus in action, connecting
Sorry for this unpredictable loss in the connection. We're going to try to get back with Professor Villafuerte soon. In the meanwhile, I would just like to remind you that if you have any question or curiosity, you can. Okay, we are back. I can see Professor Villafuerte back, but we can't hear you. I think your microphone is off.
Okay, now I'm back again. Sorry for that. My internet is not so good here, so sorry for that part. I'm just going to finish my presentation, and I was saying that we have experienced this international injustice. This is actually related that, well, pollution comes from one generation to another, and there is a new generation that actually born during this prolonged eutrophication of the rivers. And the action here is really interesting because we are trying to reweave these broken ecological narratives. And in that kind of sense, we are trying to put youth in the center of the environmental protection. They are no longer passive recipients, probably, of harm, but they could be active agents of repair. This project shows actually that citizen science is not a tool, as I said it before, it is a strategy. And it actually democratizes knowledge, amplify voices, and align environmental justice with the Sustainable Development Goals. This project helps bridge data gaps. This is SDG 6. Address structural inequality, SDG 10. Monitor climate-linked water shift, SDG 13. And protect biodiversity, and SDG 15. It also built inclusive environmental governance. This is SDG 16. I think what is most important here is citizen science shows that change begins not in policy documents as we used to think, but in the hands of students holding sensors and actually in their voices speaking truth in community assemblies. So this is all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Villafuerte. Thank you for your very interesting presentation and your underlining that participatory approach and citizen science is not a tool, but is a strategy that we can consider everywhere, and that legal literacy and technical knowledge together and the engagement of local communities can catalyze what you call outsiders are not able to catalyze only by external policies that are just set and defined from outside, but just how important is to root the processes in the community. And I would like to invite now Marta Marchiorato here to follow about her experience in the Altiplano, in the Bolivian context, and to follow about the tales from Bolivia. Can you share the screen? This is your right.
Thank you so much, Marta, for the introduction. Last year, I was sitting on the other side in the audience, so presenting my thesis here today is a pleasure. For my thesis, I spent 3 months in La Paz, Bolivia, where I was hosted by the Universidad Católica Boliviana, specifically in the Instituto para la Democracia, under the supervision of Leonardo Villafuerte. And my thesis is titled Climate Change Impacts and Community-Based Water Management in Andean Wetlands or Bofedales, Insights from Participatory Research in the Bolivian Altiplano. My research focuses on Bofedales, which are high-altitude wetlands. This ecosystem acts as natural water reservoir, where water accumulates and is directly used by local communities and livestock. I had 4 research objectives. First, to contextualize the study area by analyzing the Qatari River Basin. Second, to analyze local community practices and perceptions related to water. Third, to gather and analyze meteorological data with a focus on precipitation patterns. And finally, to combine all these aspects in order to identify vulnerabilities of Bofedales and understand how to evaluate the management of them through a nature-based solution approach. As context, Bolivia is a landlocked country located in South America with a population of about 12.4 million people in 2024. Around 71% of the population lives in urban areas, while the remainder lives in rural regions, often characterized by limited access to basic services. From a geographical point of view, Bolivia can be broadly divided into 2 main regions, the Andean regions and the lowland plains. Now I've moved from the national scale to the study area, focusing on the region of La Paz, where Qatari River Basin and Lake Menor system is located. The Basin Lake system covers an area of 6,300 square kilometers, including 24 municipalities. The population in the basin is over 1.1 million inhabitants, with El Alto being home of more than 900,000 people. The Qatari River is the main water course, and it flows into Lake Menor, which is a smaller part of Lake Titicaca. One of the main challenges of the basin is water pollution, mainly due to untreated or insufficiently treated wastewater coming from the rapidly growing cities of El Alto and Viacha, together with solid and industrial waste. Here, I further narrow down the focus on Batallas municipality, which represent the core of my study. Batallas is located at about 3,800 meters above the sea level, with a population of 17,000 people distributed across 43 rural communities. As you can see from the map, the municipality extends across 3 microcatchments, Hachahaura, Callacota, and Cuyucachi. And for my study, I selected 3 communities, 1 in each microcatchment. These communities are relatively small, with a few hundred inhabitants in each, and they are organized according to a system where families share territory and activities, and the governance is based on a hierarchy structure with communities' authorities. So here I'm going to present the methodologies. The first part of the methodology focuses on primary data collection through fieldwork activities. It started with site visits together with meetings with the communities. From the insights of the first visit, I developed a structured questionnaires composed mostly by close-ended questions, together with a few open-ended ones. The size sample was calculated using Cochrane's formula, and in total, 50 interviews were conducted across the 3 communities. Meeting with the authorities were essential to gain trust in the communities, and some interviews were supported by a translator from Aymara, which is the local traditional language. The second part of the methodology focuses on meteorological data analysis. Precipitation data were obtained from CENAMI, which is the Bolivian National Meteorological Service, using Chirapaca Station, located in Batallas, which provide a time series period between 1990 and 2025. I analyzed both annual and seasonal precipitation in order to identify potential trends and assess variability. In the third part of the methodology, I use an MBS approach to evaluate the role of the bofedales in the communities. Ecosystem services are the benefits that ecosystem provides to people, and they are commonly classified into four main categories: provisioning, regulating, cultural, and supporting. In this part, I applied the ecosystem services cascade model, which links structure to function to services provided to benefits and values. Here I'm going to present some of the results from the interviews. So the main livelihoods are agriculture and livestock. The households are relatively small, and the agricultural production is mainly for self-consumption. The main crops are potatoes, broad beans, barley, onion, and oats. And they are cultivated in small plots of land, mostly 20 by 60 meters. As livestock, cattle and sheep are the most common animal raised. This slide focuses on water use practices and the role of bofedales. So rainfall is the main irrigation method. However, when it comes to livestock, bofedales are the main source of water for the animal. They are essential for grazing and watering animals. For domestic use, bofedales are used only occasionally, and in most cases, grey water is directly discharged onto the ground. Here, there is an example of how I coded open-ended responses. What clearly emerged from this part of the questionnaire is low water availability, together with high variability and uncertainty in rainfall. Now we'll present some of the results of the precipitation data analysis. These graphs show annual precipitation analyzed using Max Kendall test and Sense Slopes estimator. What we can see from the graph is a slightly decreasing trend, but it is not statistically significant. In this graph, for each year, I aggregated rainfall data for season, so April to October, and wet season, November to March, according to the same system used by the communities. What we can see is that the dry season is generally stable, and the wet season shows a slight decreasing trend, but again, it is not statistically significant. In this graph, I calculated the difference between the observed data and the long-term average. So positive values indicate wetter years and negative values drier years. The graphs show a high interrennial variability, and 2020 and 2021 stand out as dry years, which is consistent with what emerged from the interviews. Here is the same analysis, but on the dry season. Again, a high variability, and the past 5 years from 2020, especially 2020 and 2022, show below average condition. In this graph, I calculated the onset of the rainy season. So for each year, I individuate the first month with rain exceeding the threshold of 30 millimeters. There is no long-term trend. but a high variability because the onset month ranges between September and December. The beginning of the rainy season, that is uncertain, makes hard for the farmers to know when to sow and how much to plant, which affects the agricultural production. Finally, bofedales can be classified as type 1 nature-based solution, as they are natural ecosystem providing multiple ecosystem services while requiring little to no human intervention. Here is the application of the cascade model to the bofedales, starting from soil, vegetation, and water. Bofedales support key functions such water storage and carbon storage. These functions generate multiple ecosystem services. Here you can see them divided into the four main categories. And these services translate into benefits and values such as support local livelihoods and ensuring water availability. In conclusion, the NBS approach highlights the need to prioritize the protection and the sustainable management of existing ecosystems. Some operational recommendations can be identified. First, to integrate bofedales into local planning, avoiding intervention that may disrupt the water flows. And in addition, community-based monitoring system that could help track the changes in water availability and vegetation conditions. These strategies aligns with the Sustainable Development Goals, in particular SDG 6 on water management and SDG 15 on ecosystem conservation. This study also highlights some limitation, mainly due to data scarcity. Future research should focus on improved data availability, especially meteorological data, on a better understanding of groundwater dynamics. And future study could also focus on assess the water quality and use satellite or drone imagery to monitoring changes of bofedales in time. Thank you. Here I left some picture and some quotes from the interviews. Thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you, Marta, for your very interesting work, and congratulations for that. I really appreciate how you were able to link each statistical and hydrological analysis with its direct impact on the community, and that was living in the bofedale. So congratulations for the interdisciplinarity. And I'm happy to leave the stage to our last speaker, Professor Katia Sakiyama Ventura, that will shift our attention from more rural areas to urban center in Brazil. And so welcome, and your talk will focus on water governance and public policies for big cities in Brazil. So now we share the screen and we should be able. Well, good afternoon and good evening, and everyone. First of all, I would like to sincerely thank you for the invitation and the organizers for the invitation and the opportunity to be here today. It's a great pleasure and honor to share some reflections on water governance and climate change in Brazil. Especially when we are discussing about growing global challenges and related to water security, urban resilience, and and then sustainable development. Today, I will briefly
discuss a methodology that we develop in research that was published in the beginning of this year. And the reality here is completely different than the two first presentation, because I'm bringing a metropolitan region and state of São Paulo. And before talking about this region, I would like to share this picture. I create this picture trying to understand, to explain how governance, water governance in Brazil can be understood for you. So we have the first part here. And this introductory picture depicts actually the relationship of water and sanitation governance with sustainable decision-making in Brazil. The first part in blue, we can see the governance that was built on policies, institution, and decision-making process. And these elements together determine how water is assessed and allocated and managed across society, because we are talking about the risks and benefits for society, for people who live in this kind of region, and environmental too. The second part, we have the strategies that we can develop when we are considering governance framework, stakeholders, and good practice to achieve water governance related to an integrated management of services, because we have a regulatory milestone in Brazil. It's from 2020, and because of this regulation, we had to rebuild to understand how this achievement, universalization of services, not only about water supply, urban drainage, solid waste management, and sewage and wastewater treatment, for example. And in the end of this picture, it's important to understand that we can see how the benefits of good governance can be achieved throughout improving healthy, public health and quality of life, especially environmental protection, and become the institutions stronger to promote long-term capacity and providing guidelines for each area or a regional area. And I bring this picture of OECD because they summarize 3 levels of water governance. And not only in Europe or in Brazil, but the level of decision make, they understand that is important. So when we base on effectiveness, efficiency, interest, and commitment, we can understand a little bit how is going on water governance. And when we analyze in these questions in climate change, it's another picture that I create just for this event. We can understand these 3 main aspects: climate change, the water governance components, and what kind of outcomes that we desire or we are planning to achieve. Well, climate change is the major stressors for water management, and we can see some examples that can trigger these environmental impacts in these boxes. at the left side of this picture. In the center, the components of water governance. I mean, it's important to promote and participation. And when I say participation, I'm talking about the population participation and the institution engaged to them. And information and knowledge that can be available in online platform or in a kind of database to be collected and analyzed and discussed with them, not only in academic way or in decision management, what kind of regulations we have to conduct this procedure in a better situation, and what are the financials we have to elevate, to increase the capacity of decision maker. As a result, we wanted to understand, we wanted to achieve a better conditions for water security, resilience, cities, considering the main topics related to climate change are droughts and floods. And at the same time, social well-being and equity, because when we have an ecosystem, balanced equity, social conditions, equity, and sustainable development, we understand that water governance can be better developed than if we don't have. And in the final of this picture is understand what actions can be done, developed, implemented in this situation to achieve a better solution. As I was talking in the beginning, instead of bringing many different municipal cities, in Brazil, I prefer to concentrate this example in Campinas metropolitan region. And this presentation will be available for you after this, and you can click on this link. Who are we? I, Professor Aline Lima, she is a professor, University of Pará, in the north of Brazil. Professor Joyce Wang, he is the University of Tennessee, the United States. Mariana and Laura, they are with us on this online conference. And they are doctorate PhD students. So this region, this region, we have 20 cities around. So this is our space in Brazil, in the state of São Paulo, region of Campinas metropolitan region. This point in red is a little bit wrong because it would be here, that is São Carlos. And the city where I live and teach, we have 20 cities, around 3 million people, and only Campinas, the center of this region, is around 1.2. This region is an important role in economic condition because we have very diversified agro-industrial sectors. We have some cities that that don't treat sewage, and they launch directly on the river. And the water catchment areas have some kind of water availability that is compromised. And instead of a native vegetation cover, it remains in a scarce way. In this specific paper, we developed this kind of method. In Brazil, we have the Ministry of Science and Technology Innovation. They developed recently, and when I say recently, is August 2025. So we have many indicators, quality of numbers to all municipalities in Brazil. And when I say all, it's much more than 5,500 cities in Brazil, more than that. In this case, we trying to promote, to propose regional water security governance framework grounded in climate risk indicators. So we choose, just for you understand, the stakeholders, the expertise, the academic people engaged in this methodology. They developed an IAGP, analytical hierarchical process. So it's an robust method. And I bring this picture because all this group, we have a different information. These indicators were prepared. We took this and put it in another equation to understand how these index is going on. And we selected these indicators in vulnerability, this one exposed, and climate threat to understand the impact risk index. So we selected the indicators in the most, detail level to analyze this. And we use this scale, 0 to 1. Closer to 1 is the higher risk to promote, to get high environmental impacts. We have in this scientific paper many results, so I bring you some of them. We develop a gel procedure to understand the size of population in each city. In the red, we have Campinas, 1.2, and the small one represented here by green and blue, and the other is a medium room. And the other map, we have an urban area. It means by red one, and the others yellow and green by area that we can consider a permeable area. And here we have a kind of understand about this law that we have in this case. So the other results that we have here, it's about the index related. If we have 0 to 1, the number of the cities in Campinas metropolitan area, we don't, we think it's not interesting to identify them because we don't want to compare each of them. We just want to understand what the water governance is going on related to climate change. So we put number, but we know each one of them. And we can see, let me see, 3 of them are in a high index, if I can say, and the other, most of them are not in a medium one. And here we have another possibility to understand the combined indexes of that we decided: vulnerability, exposure, and climate threat. And the exposure, and when I mean exposure, it's about people and how people are exposed and related to environmental impacts. So this is an skyline of Campinas, no? And we have in this kind of decision the participation of stakeholders and civil society. And the most important thing is if we can be or promote transparency to population. So because of that, I needed to get the information disposal like this platform, but to make a decision process in more equitable. And we have another questions to intertwine water governance to other aspects, such as energy, agriculture, not only in sanitation. This is another picture of Campinas. So it's a metropolitan area. And we have another question because Campinas has a specific climate change plan. So it's a robust plan, but we don't have it for other municipalities in the metropolitan region. And this plan can be inspire the other municipalities to develop each one or to see what they plan to Campinas to trying to do. In this case, in the state of São Paulo, we have 22 river basin commit. And the metropolitan, Campinas metropolitan area is in PCJ, Piracicaba, Capivari, Jundiaí, the name of 3 rivers. The most of, I think it's one of the important river basin committee in the state of São Paulo. And they have a representation of municipalities. So not only civil society, politician belongs in this committee, but the level of state of São Paulo, and they can develop something like that. Not only tools to evaluate, but also to improve or develop digital technologies like an app. And this way, they can provide some interaction with technology. Just to bring the 5 topics there are developed in Campinas climate plan. For you understand, it's an as I told, and a robust plan. It's an interesting. And how about the water governance framework? I would like to bring that it's about to understand the many aspects related to risk of droughts and floodings, because we have specific conditions to vulnerability and population exposed in this kind of scenario. And we developed these 7 steps of monitoring plan. Basically, depends on the huge diagnosis, the parameters that we can discuss and understand how one of them or some of them can restrain the decision make. And throughout this procedure, the idea is to ensure that the plan can be developed, but also we can discuss all of these new goals in another Spire circuit. So if I have, or if I did a good diagnosis, not only qualitative, but also quantitative, or another strategy that we develop in some kind of research, that being make an interview with the population, or going to a field land to understand, we can make a diagnosis in a huge report. With implementation, the actions, we can analyze the evaluation, and after probably establish new goals and strategies for them. In this case, I'm suggesting, not in this article, when I was preparing this presentation, a kind of a pocket city app, because if we are walking in anywhere and we want to identify a kind of problem, we can send, because this kind of app is not difficult, it's easy, it's a little bit easy, and we can develop between academic in a research way, and they can send the problems, the environment impact, or challenge they are getting through in that situation. Here, finally, I prepared this other picture to understand that how many aspects are engaged when we are talking about water governance related to climate actions. And these aspects or items can inspire cities to elaborate, to develop their public policies. And when I say public policies, I'm saying it's about the guidelines, the city, the region administration that we have, and can be paying attention, yeah, because it's not, we have in this case an disparity, disparity in a certain way that sometimes a small city can difficult to achieve the same goal, the biggest one. So we need to balance these goals in specific conditions. Every lecture I make, I end with a question, because I wanted to make some kind of reflections with you. And I'm talking about water governance. So what should we do to implement good water governance practice aimed to climate change in your city or in each city? This is my contact, and thank you so much again.
Question and answer session. And I also invite Marta to join the stage. So thank you, Katia, for your super interesting sharing and presentation. Quite another context with a lot of complexity, also this one. And yeah, I will take the advantage to please Marta, to propose to start from the last provocation that Katia poses in the slide. So maybe I go back and sharing the screen. So also Professor Villafuerte is able to check back with the question. So what should we do to implement good water governance practices aimed to climate change in the city? So you already started saying a lot about that. What I suggest is to think not only about cities, big cities, but also to think about different dimensions of urban settlements and communities. So what you take home from your experiences, also Marta and Leonardo, if you would like to add something and comment this reflection, please, you're welcome.
Yep. And I propose this question exactly for our reflection. I bring a complex scenario, because we're talking about 3.3 and sometimes 1.2 million people. But in university, we have another small cities and medium cities. I mean, around 50,000 or 200,000 people, like that. For us, it's a small and medium city. And we have another studies in Amazon region. So that complexity is completely different, because it's a kind of other word. And if I say, I have some suggestion for water governance practice. We have to understand the particularities in each place, and what are the values belong to the population. Because in the first presentation of Leonardo and Marta, we can see these specific conditions, because we have cultural aspects and values about the conservation of an environment that are necessary to be understood in the diagnosis. And when we are talking about water governance, we are trying to put the power of decision not only with us, because we are understanding, we are decided, but we have the participation, the other side, the population, the people who are receiving everything that we are discussing. So they need to get in our discussion, to understand, to agree or not agree, and something like that. And one point of this procedure is to involve population participatory, to be transparent to them. And for that, we need to collect data, analyze, and explain what the environment situation is going on in each place or in each area. And then we can plan together with them and review the goals with them. Yeah, it's in a way that I think can be a balanced way.
Okay. Thank you. Super interesting. I don't know if Professor Villafuerte would like to add some thoughts on that.
Well, thank you so much. I believe I stand with the question. If you allowed me, probably not sure if this is the best time, trying to connect my presentation actually with a question. So it depends on how you manage this Q&A, please.
Yes, please, feel free to connect it.
Okay, great. I think that what happens in Civile is a small community, and after looking its experience, I think the central lesson here is that good water governance cannot begin only from technical plans or infrastructure or projects or institutional declarations. I believe it must begin by recognizing who lives with polluted water, who has knowledge about the territory and who has been historically excluded from decision making, and obviously who will suffer most the climate change now. The project shows that citizen science, in my case, can transform water monitoring into democratic practice. But then again, it is not enough if we don't listen to this kind of, practices and projects. In that kind of sense, water governance is not about just managing water as a resource, as Professor already told. I believe it is about building trust, accountability, participation, and justice, even though those are very, very hard to get in the reality. If climate change is making water problems more uncertain in some ways, and even more unequal and more urgent, the question, I believe, is not longer only what technology or policy we need. I think the deeper question is how we do create governance practices where communities are not treated as beneficiaries, but as co-producers of knowledge and co-authors of solutions. When we are in the cities and we think only through the cities that actually in this specific moment are using like 75% of all the global resources, I think we are thinking only in the centers and not in the areas that are around, not in the periphery. So in that sense, I think we have to invite more people into this question. This is my first response. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I don't know if Marta would like to add her thoughts about that.
Yes, I definitely agree when we talk about participatory research, because something that I learned in my experience and really surprised me was how much people in the community knew about water-related issues. It was interesting to talk with them, and they knew a lot. And it's something that I try to do in my research, to take in consideration their opinion. I think it's something really important.
Thank you. I was thinking while you were presenting about this bilateral trying to approach local community and different system of values and knowledge to be integrated within diagnosis or, such indexes of water stress and strategies for climate adaptation plans. So from one side, bottom up, to the other side, top down. And I really appreciated how your mutual contribution underline the importance of recognizing different systems of knowledge and values and trying to integrate them and giving space to do that. So for sure in cities, people have stronger power because they are more, and it's a big energy in the system, let's say. I'm not talking about a system in an engineering way. And while on rural communities, the energies are lower because they are underrepresented with respect to the system of powers of stakeholders. So I have a question, but then we can open the discussion to all the participants if you have curiosities. Which, in your opinion, can be the relationship among the stakeholders in the case study you analyze that you suggest to be improved, strengthened, to invest much energy in order to give to the communities more power and to give to their knowledge more value in this climate change era?
If I can explain something that can answer a little bit, you asked. In Brazil, we have a law since 1997, and that implement a water management that be decentralized. So it's because of that, the decision about anything of water is decided inside the society, not only people who get the power of decision. And because of that, the river basin committee were developed to open a little bit this decision. And why I'm saying that? Because we have money in these communities. I mean, in these committees. And if you put some private companies, probably the decision will benefit this public. And we are not interested only on that. We trying to promote environment justice. And because of that, there is a regulation that define how is composed each river basin, including kind of 33% of each one, civil society, state of representatives, members of state of São Paulo, and another 33% almost municipal members. So it's a kind of decision. And if we have an amount of money and we have a criteria to select the best project to be developed with this money. And when I'm saying this financial, where do they come from? They come from about every construction that can interfere in environment. So if you want to build something, you need to pay amount of money that are established by law. And so we have a set of regulations and law to promote. We have people that are capable to supervise, to implement these public policies, and we have the other side, the society that can be that can receive the money back for each construction. And answering this kind of decision-making procedure can be developed in Italy, because I don't know if you don't have this kind of participatory. And I think that it's a challenge, because we are talking about São Paulo. We don't can discuss in the same level or each other regions of Brazil. It's completely different. And the other levels of research that we develop, we are doing the same of Professor Leonardo and Marta. We go to the field to make visits, to interview people, to understand the problems, because not only because I suggest an app, it means people can have this kind. Sometimes they don't have energy. So in this kind of app, it's not a useful tool. And so we can develop any other tools, depend on the conditions we have. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, feel free, Marta or Professor Villafuerte, to comment.
Well, thank you so much. I'm not sure if Marta, would you like to start, or please?
Yes, no, just in my case, I think that it's really important to take into consideration the opinion of the local authorities, of the community authorities, because from what I saw, the community members really trust and think that the local authorities represent them, and also maybe create more community awareness of like the importance, in my case, of the Hipofedales for their source of living. So protecting them and how to sustainable using them. So this.
Thank you.
So great. I think that we have an issue related to consultation. We think that we have to consult indigenous peoples or communities, but I think this is not longer the case. We should base the dynamics between stakeholders based on co-production. I think co-production of knowledge and decision making. This is one of the main things that we are supposed to change, I believe, in our regulations and international legal framework. And then again, the dynamics between stakeholders, I think they should be dialogical, collaborative, and territorial. Obviously, cities must participate because they concentrate population, infrastructure, waste, and decision-making because they have more money. But they cannot act alone because water problems move across basins and affect rural communities in different ways. And in the case I show, most of the pollution came from the city. Indigenous peoples, schools, ecosystems, and downstream territories are actually heavily polluted in this case, and they don't have a say in the table. So in that kind of sense, they should be prioritized. And there is a way of thinking this kind of imbalance between these kind of actors. We have to think mostly in this climate change setting that we're living in, because the issues are coming, I think, more urgent. And we don't have that kind of water that we used to have in regular periods of time, as Marta showed. But also we have floods, and we have something that is changing our way of living and our economics and our actually cultures. Then again, the relation should take into action different ways of thinking. Yeah, and I agree totally with Marta and Professor actually said before. We need better water governance through this climate change situation. This is actually a need for us.
Marta, if I can take an advantage of Leonardo's speech, I think when I talk, I explain something about river basin in state of São Paulo. I was as a vice president, one of them, this river basin, and I know there is a robust, is a complex system of decision In this case, when we are talking about a small community or a community that are far from a urban area, we can suggest, for example, a small structure, a small framework can be a closed-then association or organization in this kind of level to join these people and then building with them some kind of regulation actions that can go back to them. And I think it can be an alternative to gather these people to initiate water governance in this situation.
Yeah. Thank you all for your consideration and comments. I would like to ask to the participant if there is any question, curiosity in presence or online also. You can raise your hand online and write the question, and we're gonna read it out for you. Yes, please. We have a question here.
Thank you. Actually, I have three questions, one per speaker. So the first one is with this citizen science approach. What purpose are then collecting these data? I mean, are there then some critical level that can create also political action interventions? I mean, these guys that are trained, educated to collect this data and also understand what they mean, but then what follows is my first question. The second one, thank you very much for your presentation. I would be curious if there is time, if you can add some words about these cultural ecosystem services. So you can really talk about belonging, or you can add a bit what you experience with these communities. And the third one is focus also on participation, again, also using technologies and apps. So my question is, what is also the level of water literacy? So I mean, population is already ready also to take the step and to participate in these processes, or is just a big aim, but then has to be built in some way? Thank you.
Thank you for the multiple questions, Suela. And maybe we can start with Professor Villafuerte. I don't know if you were able to hear the question.
In my case, I have issue with internet, so sorry for that. When I was hearing, yeah,
I can repeat
close.
it.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. So basically, and Viola, please correct me if I missed something. It was okay, but what follows? So you collected, you trained local community that are aware of the value of the environment and of the status of their own environment. They know how to carry out environmental monitoring activities and plans, how to read the lab analysis, quick analysis. And now they know and they can be advocate for their environment. And what follows now? Am I missing something? Okay, that's it.
Thank you so much. I think this is a great question that is really part of the discussions that we are having. The Citizen Science Project was a pilot project, and we saw actually the good consequences that between and among the people from the community, these projects change their minds, this project changed their way of thinking. And then again, I think that we need to follow up, not only with this community that is just one of the many communities that live in that area, but also with communities that actually live in the upper area, in the upstream area, and also with the city of El Alto, which is the biggest polluter, and other cities that are around. In that kind of sense, we are looking right now for funds to continue this project and trying to buy more interesting kits for measuring the quality of water and also measuring the quantity of water. So indigenous peoples and community members have the possibility to know the data for themselves, to understand what is going on with climate change, and to have a saying in the tables of discussion. Because most of the time when we invite indigenous peoples and community members to discuss with us, they feel threatened. They think that the scholars are the only ones that have a saying because they actually know the data. But I think that this is something that have to change. Evidently, we don't need people that are specialists because they are becoming probably professionals, as we want also. But we want the regular people that are not interested in being an engineer or a lawyer, for example, in the case that we are acting. I think it could be really interesting if they own the data and they can manage to understand and translate this data into their regular daily lives. In this sense, we're looking for funding now. In the kind of sense, we're trying to connect also with other cities and communities, not only from Bolivia, but also from the South American region, to connect this kind of project, citizen science projects that are really virtuous, connecting disciplines, making this a transdisciplinary experience, and connecting people for change. So thank you so much for the question. I think this is actually a great opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I didn't go so much in depth in the cultural category between the four. And actually, I think it was one of the hardest to find something. And I don't remember the exact word that I put in the slide, but I would say it's like shared space for families. In most cases, one bofedal was used by 2 or 3 families together. And also as cultural, I would say like cultural heritage between like member of families, between the elders and the youngest. So thank you.
And well, you made excellent questions. First of all, when we wanted to plan something, it's because we wanted to go to anywhere, or I mean, to choose a path and achieve a better condition. If I'm say that I'm being that I seen that something's not so good. So in this case, collect and analyze data in many aspects. It's an alternative to understand how situation is and which path we can choose. And on the other side, discuss these results with the people engaged in this situation. And when you told me about the participatory of population, we have many different levels of them. Some of them, people, they don't know what is popular participatory or participation in a society, how can be developed. We can discuss, we can design, we can write. We have many strategies for that. And the other side, we have a group of an engaged people that they know many tools in how they can empower the law and for controlling, avoiding environmental impacts, even in Brazil. So we have different aspects. But what is important that I think is balanced. If we don't have this, for example, I was in a meeting with some professors here talking about water supply in Trento and Rovereto. And if you don't have this kind of participatory decision, we trying to put them in this situation. Sometimes we can change a little bit some aspects that have been never discussed because or the population never thought, or because the system is so close and the population can get in, can understand. You understand what I'm saying? We have this situation in Brazil too. So depends. When I'm saying in São Paulo, in Campinas metropolitan region, it's a robust and people empowered of that power. And but we have some small cities in Amazon region, in the inland of the state of São Paulo, in many others places in Brazil. So the worst situation is when we don't have popular participation in anything about something that will affect quality of life, environment aspects, environment justice, okay?
Thank you. Thank you all. I don't know if there is any other comment or question. Well, while you were all talking, I was thinking about the context that I am working the most that is completely different and on another continent, the Balkans, because I'm working a lot in Albania, where what you just said, Katja, is the everyday reality. So decisions and plans and infrastructure are just set there with no participation and no management, co-production, co-design, and there is no consideration about the local knowledge and the local system of values regarding environment and nature. And I was thinking about the struggles we had in assessing cultural ecosystem services while I was doing the PhD, because it was super difficult not only to find and to build indicators and semi-quantitative indicators to assess the perception of cultural ecosystem services, but it was also very difficult to try to connect with people and trying to share the fact that their knowledge, their value, their perception of their area had a value. Okay, so I was thinking that this sadly is super true and super urgent and coherent to what I'm working in. And thank you for sharing the perspective of, for me, a completely different area where I didn't have any experience before. Just thinking about what you're carrying out in Bolivia, I got in mind that a couple of years ago, in this occasion, it was always an ESIC seminar, we had a sharing about experiences that an Italian NGO is carrying on all over the world. Basically, I think now they are working mainly in Italy, but in the past they worked also in Latin America with citizen science and co-production with local community of knowledge about environmental status, and it's called SOURCE NGO, and it's mainly focused on mining activities, but also on environmental quality activities. So I don't know, but this might resound to you, Professor Villafuerte, in your future direction. They're applying similar strategies, and not tools, but strategies of co-production. So maybe it can be helpful for you, I hope so. And yeah, I also take the advantage to welcome Professor Zertea that just arrived from the southern part of Italy. Thank you for reaching us in such a very dense day for you. I don't know if there is any other comment or sharing.
I would like to take an advantage of what you just said. And when we are talking about indicators, it doesn't mean they need to be the same throughout the period, because the climate change and the environment are changing in a dynamic that we can't control. So when we perhaps establish or define a metric, indicators, qualitative or quantitative, they can be transformed throughout the situation because depends on the response we are getting from population, from participatory decision. So it doesn't mean that this kind of methodology is the best way. It's one of them to try to put something in our minds and reflect with them. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And we have another methodologies. It's completely different, and there is no one better. We can choose the best one. We have different kind of perspective that we can endure, that we can face. Yeah.
Yeah. What is the question regarding the propensity at the we have a question regarding the propensity that you mentioned before. Who do you think should be able to update and manage the app? Does it work based on the data provided by the community, satellite imaging, or based on what?
It's a good question too, and why I suggest this idea, because I'm living in São Carlos, and I went to a municipal secretary, and I told to him, we can develop to you in a free way a kind of web, and you, municipal decision maker, can analyze because you receive in real time where the problem is. The question is, I know the problem and I have to deal with. So if I don't want to deal with, or because I don't have money, or because I'm not prepared, perhaps it's not interesting to develop this app. And this app was not developed. So we would develop in a free way, some costs, in a simple app, because it will be a conclusion research for that student. He will program something in a visual base, something like that, and we'll give to them in a free. But all the management of the database is with them. Yeah.
Any other question, curiosity, or comment? I leave the stage to Professor Cortea.
Good afternoon, friends, or good evening, depending on the time zone. I'm particularly happy to be there originally in time, Trento, after a storm in Verona, and because climate change is impacting on the way we are dealing with the environmental challenges all around the world. That's governance is one of the response we can do. And ESIC is another response. We have almost concluded this sixth edition. So for 6 years, we tried to dialogue with all the students, with all the scholars, and we are working with all around the world. And today I'm particularly happy also to conclude this edition speaking about governance, because many times as engineers or technicians, we are concerned on how to do it with which techniques, technologies, etc. But the most important thing is with whom, in which way we are involving the other non-technicians. And we are here experts in this kind of challenges. Go, for instance, in the Middle East and the Southeastern Europe for Malta, etc. And even me in Latin America or Africa have seen that importance of water governance. It was in the research we made with Leonardo and Marta Macchiarato in this case. But you will reach very briefly the word of Marta Crivellaro. So I'm particularly grateful to these people. But maybe the most important thing after the conclusion of these 6 events we have arranged this year is that we are trying to respond to another important thing, important for students, for teachers, and it's why. Why are you engaged in international cooperation in environmental sustainability, or reversing environmental sustainability and international cooperation, ESIC? Why? Because we have motivation, personal motivation, but also human motivation. We have an agenda, a global agenda to comply. We are engaged in doing something more large than our expertise. And I think that this was also, I imagine, but I will soon consult the registration and the recording of this lecture. And so the final greetings are to you, to all the people that resisted despite the tiredness, and also to all connected online. I particularly thank Marta, because she was available a few times to change all the schedules in order to cooperate. This is cooperation, really. Mm-hmm. And thank you to all the 3 speakers. And of course, to all the other speakers, we invite you to cooperate in several ways by suggesting new topics, for instance, new places to explore. The range is covering worldwide. I could say that apart from Oceania or some places of Oceania or Pacific Ocean, we are covering, in 6 years, we have covered all the world. And this is also the mission of the UNESCO chair, is in human and sustainable engineering for human and sustainable development, but also the mission of all the 45 UNESCO chairs united in the network, Italian network of UNESCO chairs. It's a challenge of several programs of UNESCO, for instance, the Intergovernmental Hydrological Program, the Man and Biosphere Program, the Twin program. So connecting people, connecting knowledge, connecting technology capacity, that's at the end to orient everything to a specific goal, that is humanities, that is taking care of humankind. So thank you very much once again. I don't know if Leonardo is still connected. I don't see him in the...
Good evening, Professor. I am still connected.
Gusto, Leonardo.
Un gusto igual.
Como siempre. Y mañana por la noche voy a mirar tu grabación. ¿Estás seguro? Entonces, sorry, furthermore, I would like to thank all the people not present here, especially our coordinator, Guido Zolezzi, Grande Capo. It's an international word to say that is the head of the heads. Cooks is another challenge that we can invite to deal with. The coordination, Italian coordination of all the university engaged in development cooperation. This could be a new dimension of engagement for you, especially young cooks that are evolving. And I think that Nicole and Marta know something about it, more than something. Let's stop. I don't know if you want to have some final remarks, Leonardo. Otherwise, goodbye to next year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor. Just thank you so much for all the opportunity. It's really nice to be here, and yeah, it's really nice to see you once more.